There are many threads that run through the history of a town. Today, however, if you stand in the middle of this town, invisible to the eye are the myriad of threads that went into the making of it. This video production is a tribute to the people, service clubs, and organizations that help shape the township of Qualicum Beach through selfless acts of volunteerism. Natural beauty is a magnet for people, and it has always drawn people to the beaches of Qualicum. For settlers to these parts in the late 1800s, life was by no means easy, as they scattered widely to forge their homes, farms, and lives, connected only to each other by dusty trails and wagon roads. The first man to actually register land, a Thomas Kincaid, was issued title in 1882. In what can only be described as an early act of volunteerism, many neighbors descended upon his property from miles around to help erect a modest country homestead. This pioneer spirit, or communal spirit of cooperation, flourished in the early days and has helped set the tone in the community for the last 100 years. In what is one of the first signs of any evolving community, a group of merchants banded together in 1925 to discuss the formation of a board of trade to promote business and tourism in the area.
Well, in 1913, the train station was built, and that was the beginning of an influx of tourists to the area. A lot of people were looking for an opportunity to get out of Victoria, and they wanted to travel a little bit. We have such beautiful beaches, and they've always been here. So this was an excellent opportunity for people to have a getaway, even in 1913. So tourism has been an important part of our local economy since the beginning of the community.
It was formed with 30 charter members and registered in Ottawa on January 27, 1927. The charter covered an area within a radius of 10 miles from the post office, which embraced the villages we know today as Qualicum Beach, Dashwood, Hilliers, Coombs, Arrington, and Parksville, having a population of about 1,500 people. There were 2 churches built very early on, and these provided the first means for people to gather in larger groups. People also held social events in their own homes or gathered for picnics in any number of scenic locations. The first community hall was built around this time, and it was known as Fisher Hall. The Qualicum Beach Golf Course and Hotel opened just when war broke out in the summer of 1914. After the war, a dozen or so veterans met together in the laundry room of the Qualicum Beach Hotel and formed the Qualicum branch of the Canadian Legion, which itself had only been formed a year earlier in 1926. Branch 76 of the Canadian Legion, though initially concerned about the welfare of its veterans and dependents, quickly saw the need to work with other community service groups and churches to better the community which they all served. It helped the Recreation Club to build the community hall, purchase parkland, and help with many other community projects.
We have fundraising, legalized gambling within our clubhouse, and these are all government run, and that money in turn all goes back to the community in form of charity.
At a point of growth in any community that has worked hard to achieve its goals, people turned to recreational activities as an outlet and reward for their efforts. Fisher Hall, which had seen many weekend dances, was demolished for safety reasons. Another building across the street helped the newly formed community club provide the center of social activity until it burned down in 1933. The community club canvassed a young community for donations, which came mostly in the form of labor, and the recreation center, which still stands today, was opened in 1933 at the height of the Depression, debt-free. Another sign of a maturing community is the formation of its volunteer services designed to protect it, its volunteer fire department, and its ambulance service. The first Qualicum Beach Fire Department was started in 1947. At that time, Craig Reed and Fred Hurd formed the first volunteer group. An old army truck was purchased and fitted with a 400-gallon water tank. The first fire hall was built around 1949 by Jack Clark and his son Harry. The old hall with its hose tower was a well-known landmark. It had 2 bays, one for the fire truck and the other for the district ambulance, which was also operated by volunteers.
3 telephones that were set up to trip the siren. Whenever you heard the siren, you just left and answered the call. Didn't matter if you were working or whatever you were doing. The fire department came first, and that was it. Eagle Crest Lodge, second time it burnt, that was a big hot one. It just seemed like the whole building went up, just poof.
From its inception, the Qualicum Beach Rotary Club has chosen to do at least one community benefiting project each year.
The seawall along the beach here, it was done with pick and shovel, and it was done by the Rotary members themselves. I was always told that the Rotary Club was the actual government of Qualicum Beach. It was more important than the local municipal council, because it had all the old-time business people in town in it, whereas the council was just an elected group of 3 people that did all the legal sort of things, I suppose. But the Rotary Club was the real engine behind the development of the town.
Local groups and charities have benefited greatly from Rotary contributions since its start in 1947.
The way I was brought up by my parents was that if you are part of a community, you give something back to that community.
Bob Mountain had a vision of building a fish and chips restaurant. Before the building was complete, he found that he could not get the necessary equipment because of wartime shortages. Charlie Little organized the finishing of the building as a home for a fraternal organization, the Knights of Pythias, which came to enrich community life in Qualicum Beach. The Pythians promoted kindness and brotherhood, and generously supported projects in the community. At one time, the hall was rented to the school board for a kindergarten classroom. The Pythian Hall was moved to its present location at the corner of Fern and Beach Roads in the 1970s. It is currently used and operated by the Qualicum Beach Rotary Club and continues to remain a useful hall for gatherings and get-togethers. Originally planned for the park, near where the Civic Center is today, the Qualicum and District Curling and Skating Club chose its site, adjacent to the Community Hall, because the Jones Street location was too far out of town. Residents were asked to buy $200 memberships, which was more than a month's wages at the time.
Most people didn't have $200 in those days, but if you didn't have $200, you could borrow it from the bank. I don't really think anybody had much curling experience when the curling rink was first built. So we were all beginners, I guess you'd say, and supported each other.
Through private donations, memberships, and the Rotary-provided funds, the rink opened on December 24, 1964.
The original club started in 1974. The clubs themselves decide what community projects they're going to assist in. So we do an awful lot to help seniors. We still help children, and especially school kids with bursaries and helping soccer and football and that type of thing.
Before 1974, residents who could not manage their own home had to leave friends and community in order to find housing. In partnership with the town council, the Kiwanas constructed the Kiwanas Village, affectionately referred to as the Wrinkle Ranch.
Kiwanas Village is a place for seniors who with low income. And what we do is we maintain that center and run it. And therefore, they can live a reasonably good life.
Beginning in 1922 at Arrington Hall, the Oceanside community has enjoyed theater of every possible kind. For the last 3 decades, the Echo Players have been proud to preserve and extend that fine tradition. In those years since the purchase of the Village Theater in 1974, over 150 plays have been produced by Echo Players, not to mention performances by dozens of other theater, music, and dance groups whom Echo Players have sponsored. Innumerable young people, and older ones too, have first trod the boards on the Echo Players stage, and there absorbed a lifelong passion for live arts. It was and is through community support that the Village Theater was acquired, dedicated, and continues to thrive. Echo Players are pleased to be a part of and contributing members to a thoughtful, resourceful, and active Oceanside community. Qualicum Beach Town Council deflected community pressure for a lawn bowling green by offering the land and water to the fledgling club. Led by Ted Waring, a retired engineer, and Ted Hurst, a retired businessman, the bowling club sold $200 memberships, while Ted Hurst sought other donations. The lawn bowling green was built, and volunteers provided much of the TLC. The opening ceremonies were held on June 6, 1981. Qualicum Beach Alderman Jack Collins cut the ribbon to mark the event.
social aspect of bowling is very good. It's not necessarily just socials and parties. It's going from club to club. And we went up and down the island and competed against other clubs, and found that very social. You got to know people, made friends that way, and had a lot of fun.
The original schoolhouse was built in 1914 as an elementary school. It had only 4 classrooms. In 1986, the town of Qualicum Beach purchased the land and the vacant school building from the school district for $50,000. The Chamber of Commerce was given 90 days to raise funds to transform the former school and then school board office into an arts center. Skeptics questioned that artists could run a viable facility. A bet between Mayor Art Skipsey and Alderman Jack Collins saw Jack offering to eat his hat if the old schoolhouse survived 5 years. A sympathetic TOSH baked an edible hat.
It is so much volunteer work went into it to make it what it is today. It is a jewel in Qualicum Beach.
(1984) marked the 100th anniversary of the first land title granted in Qualicum Beach to Thomas Kincaid. In 1983, Elizabeth Little, pioneer hotelier, called together a group of friends to plan a celebration of the anniversary. This led to the formation of the Qualicum Beach Historical and Museum Society. A search for a suitable fireproof building resulted in the purchase by the town of Qualicum Beach of the unused powerhouse from BC Hydro. Here the collection of artifacts and records began. From 1994 to 1996, the Macintosh building, salvaged from the Port Alberni hydro operation, was disassembled and moved brick by brick to Qualicum Beach. It was reassembled and completed to museum standards of climate control. The completion of this venture was a credit to the volunteers' skills, ingenuity, and determination, as well as much community support and government and foundation grants. To get maximum use of the display space in the powerhouse and Macintosh buildings, further storage and working space was added with the construction of the Annex in 1999 as a Millennium Project. The Brown family played a major role in preserving both the golf course and the local forests. They kept the properties intact while subdivision and growth prevailed around them. The town of Qualicum Beach was able to purchase the golf course in 1981. In the mid-1990s, the Brown estate proposed to subdivide the forest lands. A grassroots group formed to save this land as a forest for everyone to enjoy. What followed was the biggest community effort to date. an attempt to save 50 acres at $1.8 million, the largest volunteer-initiated project in Qualicum Beach. When the railway began destroying old railway stations, the town of Qualicum Beach acted quickly to preserve the Qualicum Beach station by entering into a 15-year lease. A group of volunteers formed the Old Train Station Society in 1991. Contributing 20,000 hours of labor, they allowed restoration to proceed. Before any restoration could begin, however, it was necessary to have the station declared a heritage building by the Historic Sites and Monuments Board of Canada. This action was to save the building from being demolished by the CPR. By November 1994, restoration had begun with a dedicated few.
A lot of timbers in the freight shed, which were large timbers and had been there forever sort of thing, since its beginning. They all had to come out, and fortunately at that time they were putting the bypass through for the new highway, so we were able to secure some trees from there of a good size and move them to a private sawmill. And we were then able to saw up the timbers for the exact size we wanted for the freight shed. And we then stripped all the lower siding off. We had all the windows removed and all the glass replaced. And once we got all that into place, we were then able to go ahead and paint the building to its original color. When we had finished the train freight shed, it was used as part of the museum. All of the E&N, lots of pictures and lots of paraphernalia that we collected. And I've enjoyed meeting a tremendous amount of people where the station itself was a great part of their lives.
As a way to encourage and assist youth in the community to live active lives, a group of volunteers from the Mount Arrowsmith Bike Club constructed a BMX track. Led by Dr. Hugh Fletcher, and in cooperation with the town of Qualicum Beach, who provided land within the community park, Jim Lundeen, who supplied backhoe service, Ozero Sand and Gravel, who supplied materials, funds from Quality Foods and the Nanaimo Regional District, a BMX track was created where youth could hone their bicycle skills. This added to the variety of activities in the community park that include skateboarding, soccer, baseball, and cricket. There will likely never be such a period of growth through the aid of volunteers as Qualicum Beach has seen in the past 100 years. This video and the original museum exhibit not only pays thanks to all those who contributed to build a better life for everyone in Qualicum Beach, it also aims to inspire new volunteers, the newcomers, and younger generations of people to take up where others have left off.
And our goal is to have $5 million. At that time, we will have $250,000 a year to put into community projects. But we're really suggesting that they make a bequest. When they're finished with the money on this earth, they can give it to a worthwhile cause, and the money will go on in perpetuity from your contribution.